My boss put my promotion on hold so his nephew could gain experience. Then he forced me to train him. 3 weeks later, HR dragged them out in front of the whole office, and the CEO announced my name as department lead. Hey, Reddit, I spent 8 years carrying an entire department while my boss played favorites with his useless nephew. I kept my head down, did my job, stayed professional, and when they pushed it too far, I handled it the only way that works in corporate. This is the full story, from how it started to how it ended. My name's Hunter Reed, 34, and for the last 8 years, I've been the de facto operations lead at a mid-sized consulting firm in the city. Officially, my title is Senior Operations Analyst, but everyone knows titles don't mean much. I handle escalations, client workflow issues, broken processes, and anything Luis, my boss, doesn't want to deal with. People come to me before they go to him. Not because I'm flashy, but because I actually fix things. For months, the office had been treating me like the next department manager. Even Luis wasn't subtle about it. He'd drop lines like, "When you take over this part of the team," or "We should get you into more leadership calls." Coworkers asked me if I'd picked out my new desk yet. It wasn't hype, it was just expected. So when Luis sent me a message at 10:30 saying, "Need you in my office, now," I figured it was about finalizing timelines or budgets, something routine. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "Hunter, have a seat." I sat, calm, neutral, standard posture. "The promotion we talked about," he said, folding his hands like he practiced the move, "it's on hold." I didn't react. I just asked, "What changed?" He blinked, then pretended to read something on his monitor. "Leadership is reassessing some things." "Nothing to worry about." "That doesn't answer the question." He shifted. "It's complicated. I'll explain later." He wasn't going to explain anything, and we both knew it. I didn't push. No point fighting fog. I stood. "All right, let me know when you have real information." He nodded quickly, too relieved I didn't argue. That alone told me everything. I walked out feeling nothing dramatic, just a quiet click in the back of my head. Something had shifted, and it wasn't in my favor. An hour later, it became obvious why. Connor arrived. I didn't need an introduction to understand what was happening. He walked in 20 minutes late for his first day start time, wearing sunglasses on his head, and the kind of confidence only people who've never earned anything can pull off. He didn't stop at reception, didn't ask for directions, just strolled through the floor like he owned the place. Luis practically jogged out to greet him. "Everyone, this is my nephew, Connor," he announced like he was unveiling a statue. "He'll be shadowing operations leadership for the next few weeks." I glanced at Ethan across the walkway. He raised one eyebrow. I smirked without smiling. Connor dropped into the nearest chair at the shared table, leaned back and said, "So who's actually in charge around here?" Ethan pointed casually. "Hunter, basically." Connor looked me up and down like he was judging a gym opponent. "Cool. Luis said I'll be doing a lot of what you do." "Good luck," I said. Calm, straight-faced, no sarcasm needed. The line did the work on its own. Connor shrugged like the job was just a weekend activity. He talked loudly about taking things to the next level and modernizing operations, even though he hadn't seen a single workflow yet. Within the first hour, he interrupted 2 team huddles and gave someone advice that was flat out wrong. Ethan walked past my desk later and muttered under his breath, "So that's the guy." "That's the guy," I replied. And that was that. I didn't go to HR. There was nothing to report. Being an entitled idiot isn't a policy violation. Neither is nepotism. HR can't file paperwork on vibes. So I stayed composed, watched, listened. Patterns show themselves if you're patient. By 5:30, I shut down my system and headed out. I had a family dinner, and I wasn't about to let work nonsense ruin my appetite. My mom was already cooking when I walked in, and my younger sister Mia was scrolling on her phone at the table. They both looked up when I came in. "You look tired," Mom said immediately. "Long day," I answered, taking a seat. Mia raised an eyebrow. "Work messing with you again?" "Not really," I said. "Just corporate things." Mom set a plate in front of me. "Don't let people treat you like you're disposable. You're too smart for that." She said it casually, not trying to dig. Just stating a fact she's repeated since I was a teenager. Mia added, "He literally works harder than everyone at his job combined. They'd fall apart without him." I snorted. "That's generous." "It's true," she said, pointing her fork at me. "You're the guy who actually fixes things. Everyone knows that." I didn't tell them about the promotion being on hold, or Connor, or Luis's weird behavior. No point dragging them into something that might resolve itself, or explode. Either way, I'd handle it. Dinner was normal. Mom talking about her garden. Mia complaining about her roommate. That grounding feeling hit me like it always does when I'm home. Life outside the office keeps everything in perspective. By the time I pulled into my apartment garage, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to fight him in the hallway version of reality. I was going to stay professional, stay procedural, and keep receipts. If they wanted to run on vibes, fine. I was going to run on timestamps. Sooner or later, the truth would show itself. The next morning, Luis called me over before I could even put my bag down. Hunter, I want you to spend the week mentoring Connor. Show him how things work around here. He said it like it was a privilege. Sure, I said. What exactly do you want him responsible for? Luis waved a hand. He'll shadow you. Just let him absorb things. He leaned back like this was obvious. Absorb, but also own a few visible pieces. Leadership wants to see him in motion. Small updates, simple sends, meeting prep. Stuff that proves he's ready. I walked over to Connor's desk. He was leaned back in his chair with his feet on a drawer, watching videos on his phone with the volume up. Morning, I said. We're going to start by reviewing the current workflows for our priority clients. You'll need to take notes so you're not lost. Connor didn't look up. Yeah, cool. Just send me whatever. I'm showing you in person, I said. Let's go. He sighed like I'd asked him to run a marathon. He got up slowly, still scrolling his phone as we walked. I opened the shared dashboard on my screen. These are the active escalations. You'll handle the low priority ones after I walk you through the process. Don't make changes without logging them. Right, he said, staring at a blank corner of the monitor. Do you want to write this down? I asked. Nah, I'll remember. You didn't even look, he smirked. Chill, man. I learned by doing. He didn't do anything. He wandered off 10 minutes later without saying a word. I found him 20 minutes after that sitting at the kitchen counter, talking loudly on the phone about how he was going to shake things up in the department. When he got back to his desk, he said, Luis said I should feel free to step in on stuff. Don't worry, I won't step on your toes. Hard to step on toes when you're never at your desk, I replied. He blinked, not sure if it was an insult or a joke. Around noon, Luis strolled over and clapped Connor on the shoulder. How's your first full day? Getting the hang of things? Connor nodded confidently. Yeah, Hunter's showing me everything. I think I'm picking it up fast. Luis smiled like a proud parent. I knew you would. You've got natural instincts for this work. Across the room, one of the analysts coughed to cover a laugh. Ethan walked past and stopped at my desk. Everything good over here? He asked casually. Depends on your definition, I said. He grinned. Just checking, because I saw Connor giving feedback on a meeting he wasn't even in. Leadership material, I said. Ethan chuckled under his breath. Right. After lunch, I tried again. Connor, we need to go through the deliverable schedule for week 3. It's the backbone of this team. If you mess up dates, clients get hit. He spun slowly in his chair. Dude, you're stressing. It's fine. It's not fine, I said. Deadlines are not optional. You're a little intense, he said. Luis said you were like old school. I'm trying to bring more modern workflow energy. Modern workflow energy, I repeated. Great. Why don't you energy yourself into reviewing the client briefs like I asked? Later, he said. I want to get a feel for the office vibe first. Antonio, who sat 2 desks away and had been watching the conversation without pretending otherwise, leaned back and whispered when Connor left, Careful. I've seen this exact pattern before. I glanced at him. How'd it end? The person doing the real work ended up blamed for the other guy's screw-ups. HR believed the manager. The worker quit. Noted, I said. Antonio nodded slowly. Document everything, even the stuff that feels small. I was already doing that, though not in a dramatic way. Just clean notes. What tasks I assigned, when, what he did or didn't do. It wasn't a case file, it was insurance. There still wasn't anything worth reporting. Annoying isn't illegal. Laziness isn't a violation. HR needs patterns, and patterns need time. Later that afternoon, I caught Connor telling 2 junior analysts, Hunter's basically my assistant while I learn the ropes. The analysts exchanged looks immediately. One glanced toward me, almost apologetic. I didn't react. Connor saw me walk by and didn't even try to correct what he said. He just repeated, Yeah, Luis wants me ready fast. Good to know, I said simply, and kept walking. He smirked, thinking he'd established dominance or whatever story he was telling himself, but that comment went into the notes too. By the end of the day, it was obvious he wasn't interested in learning, working, or even pretending. He wanted a shortcut to a title he hadn't earned, and Luis was ready to give it to him. The shift from mildly irritating to professionally dangerous happened faster than I expected. By Tuesday morning, Connor had already missed 2 internal check-ins I explicitly told him were mandatory. He didn't apologize. He just showed up an hour later carrying a smoothie and said, "I figured you had it handled." I didn't respond. I forwarded him the agenda he missed and wrote, "Review before client sync at 2. He never opened it. At 2 o'clock, he joined the call late, mic unmuted, loudly complaining to someone in the background about parking. When it was his turn to speak on a small data update, he read the wrong numbers off the wrong spreadsheet. The client corrected him. Twice. After the call, Ethan walked over. Leadership noticed that, he said quietly. They think operations is slipping. Operations isn't slipping, I said. Connor is. Yeah, Ethan said. But you know how this place works. They don't see him. They see the department. He wasn't wrong. That afternoon, I received an email from Luis with the subject line, "Miscommunication on your end." Inside, Luis wrote, "The client call today reflected errors in the update you prepared. Please make sure Connor is properly briefed." I stared at the screen for a second, then forwarded the exact set of instructions I gave Connor the day before. Timestamps included. No commentary, no emotion, just proof. Luis replied, "Let's discuss later." Translation: he wasn't expecting me to have receipts. By Wednesday, things escalated again. Connor was responsible for sending a deliverable packet to a long-term client. All he had to do was compile approved materials and send them by noon. At 12:35, the client emailed asking where the files were. I checked our dashboard. Connor hadn't even opened the folder. When I asked him about it, he shrugged. "I was working on something else. You could have sent it. That's your assignment." "Dude, chill," he said. "I'll send it now." He sent the wrong version. The client called Ethan directly, annoyed. Ethan came to my desk afterwards. "They're asking what's happening with our team, and they're using your name because you're the one they trust." I nodded once. Noted. "Hunter," he said quietly, "your reputation is getting pulled into this because Luis keeps saying you're supervising him. Good to know." Later that afternoon, Luis called an impromptu team meeting, then canceled it 10 minutes later, then scheduled another one, then canceled that too. By the third time, half the department exchanged glances like they were watching someone unravel. Luis then sent out a message rewriting one of our core workflows, something he didn't understand, and the new process didn't even make functional sense. When people asked questions, he said, "Just follow the new structure. Connor and I will clarify later." Connor hadn't even read the document. Around 4, Antonio slid by my desk and lowered his voice. "Be honest," he said. "Is Luis replacing you with him?" "I haven't asked," I said. "You don't need to ask," he replied. "Everyone can see how he treats the kid, and Luis has been acting off since last week." "It's fine," I said. "It's not fine," Antonio said. "They're setting someone up to take the fall. Usually it's the guy doing the actual work." He walked away, leaving that thought hanging. I didn't panic, but I did start tightening the documentation even more. Every instruction I sent was recorded. Timestamp, task, attachments, and a confirmation request. Every mistake he made, every missed meeting, every incorrect file, cataloged. Not dramatic, just clean record keeping. If Luis forwarded something blaming me, I forwarded the chain showing the exact opposite. No commentary, just facts. Connor didn't appreciate the shift. He started getting openly hostile, like he thought I was trying to make him look bad. On Thursday morning, he said loudly across the floor, "Hunter's micromanaging me because he knows I'm taking over soon. It's whatever." Coworkers stiffened. Nobody laughed. Someone muttered, "He really said that out loud?" I didn't react. I just wrote down the timestamp, the task he was supposed to complete, and the fact he hadn't even started. By midday, Luis pulled me aside. "We need to talk about your energy lately. Connor says you're being overly rigid." "I'm following the process," I said. Luis crossed his arms. "You need to adapt. He's bringing new ideas. Fresh perspective." "Which ideas?" I asked. Luis blinked. He's creative. You can't expect him to do things exactly your way." "He needs to meet deadlines," I said. "That's not my way. That's the job." Luis shifted again. "Leadership is watching operations closely. If things keep slipping, it reflects on you." There it was. He was pushing Connor upward while pushing responsibility downward. When I got back to my desk, Ethan was waiting. "You're on their radar," he said quietly. "Not in a good way." "That's fine," I said. "Hunter, it's not fine." "It will be. I'm making sure everything is recorded." Ethan nodded. "Good. Because if this goes sideways, they'll try to pin everything on you." He wasn't wrong. And that's when it clicked fully. This wasn't just annoying. It wasn't even disrespectful anymore. It was dangerous. My job, my reputation, my entire track record, Luis was laying the groundwork to shift blame onto me as Connor racked up failures. And if I didn't keep every detail airtight, they'd succeed. I didn't go to HR yet. It wasn't enough. Not yet. Patterns need to be undeniable. Later that Thursday, Luis dropped a giant mess on my desk. No warning, no context, no explanation. He walked over holding a thick project folder. Hunter, I need you to take over this deliverable. It's due tomorrow morning. Clients expecting a full revised operations plan. I looked at the file. It was easily 10 to 12 hours of work if everything was clean. It wasn't clean. When did this come in? I asked. Yesterday, Luis said quickly. Connor was supposed to handle it, but he's been swamped with leadership tasks. Connor wasn't swamped with anything except avoiding responsibilities, but I didn't say it. All right, I said. Send me the official assignment. I need everything documented. Luis hesitated a little too long, then said, Fine, I'll forward it. I finished it the only way I ever finish ugly work, quietly and completely. Updated models, cleaned data, rewritten plan, every assumption explained. I stayed late. When it was done, I emailed Luis the full package with time-stamped notes and a summary of what I'd covered. Then I saved the handoff chain to my work archive and copied it into a private folder on the company drive for safekeeping. That afternoon, we had an internal review meeting. One Luis insisted Connor lead. Luis hyped it up like Connor had some breakthrough insight. Connor never showed. And it wasn't just our team sitting there. 2 directors were on the invite. One of them was already in the room. 20 minutes in, people were messaging asking where he was. Luis tried to smooth it over, saying Connor was handling urgent leadership priorities, but the room wasn't buying it. The review barely held together. Key numbers Connor was supposed to compile were missing. Antonio whispered, "This is bad," while flipping through incomplete pages. After the meeting, Ethan rolled his chair over and said, "You eaten yet?" "No." "Taco truck?" "Yeah," I said. "Let's go." We walked 2 blocks to the truck that parked near the corner on Thursdays. Nothing fancy, just simple food, quiet spot, nobody from work. We ate leaning against a railing overlooking the street. Ethan broke the silence first. "You know I'm not the emotional type," he said, "but this situation is pissing me off on your behalf." "I'm fine," I said. "You shouldn't have to be fine, man. You're doing the work of a manager, and they're acting like you're some temp they can discard." I shrugged. "Corporate isn't fair, never has been." "True," he said, "but you're the only one in that department actually qualified to lead it, and everyone knows it, except the people who make decisions here." I didn't respond right away. I wasn't fishing for validation, but I respected that he said it without dramatics. After a moment, I said, "Thanks." "Yeah," he said, bumping his shoulder lightly into mine. "Don't let them drag you down with their stupidity. Protect yourself." "I am." We finished eating in a comfortable silence. On the walk back to the office parking lot, I made the decision. Quiet, simple, final. It was time to involve HR. Not because I was angry, not because I wanted revenge, but because the pattern was now undeniable. I scheduled the HR meeting for 9 on Friday morning. No dramatic wording, no emotional buildup, just a short message to Isabella. Need to discuss an ongoing operational concern. Bringing documentation. She replied within a minute. Understood. See you at 9. That quick reply told me something. She was taking it seriously. When I stepped into her office, Isabella wasn't casual. She'd already printed an HR intake packet, policy pages, reporting forms, and a blank timeline template, and labeled a folder with my name, a notepad open, and her phone flipped face down. She wasn't treating this like a routine conversation. "Morning, Hunter," she said. "Have a seat." I sat and placed the assembled packet in front of her. Clean timeline, supporting emails, assignments, missed deliverables, and impact summaries. Every page had timestamps. Nothing exaggerated. She opened it and scanned the first few pages silently. Then she slowed down around the entries, showing Connor missing deadlines or ignoring direct instructions. Slowed even more at the parts where Luis shifted responsibility. After a minute, she looked up. "This is extremely organized. You've documented everything." "Yes," I said. "I wanted clarity, not speculation." She flipped another page. "I need to be transparent with you. HR has received concerns about workflow disruptions in your department recently. That confirmed what I suspected. This wasn't starting today. HR already had an open thread. Client complaints, internal notes, pieces they hadn't been able to tie together. My packet didn't create the case, it completed it. Good. That meant my report wasn't isolated. It was part of a pattern they'd already been monitoring. "I'm not here to assign motives," I said. "Just documenting the facts, so I'm not held responsible for things I didn't do. That's the right approach, she said. You remained neutral. You kept things professional. Thank you. She read a little more, her expression sharpening. Hunter, this is a concerning pattern. Missed deliverables, client risk, managerial misdirection, and all within a short time. I waited until I could show a full picture. That was the correct decision. She closed the folder and rested her hands on top of it. Her tone dropped slightly. No warmth, just seriousness. When HR sees repeated negligence mixed with potential retaliation, we act quickly. Very quickly. I nodded. I understand. Do not discuss this meeting with anyone, she said. Not with co-workers, not with your manager, and especially not with Connor. HR will take over from here. All right. Hunter, she added, thank you for presenting this the way you did. Calm, complete, and factual. It makes our job possible. She stood, signaling the meeting was done. I left without relief or anxiety, just a sense that something had moved from unstable to in motion, and HR in motion is usually not slow. Back at my desk, I resumed work normally. No staring at Luis's office, no whispering with coworkers. I didn't want anyone drawing lines too early. I didn't know the mechanics, but I knew the protocol. When HR places someone on administrative leave midday, security is standard. Around 1 o'clock, the office changed. Not loud, just a shift in atmosphere. Heads lifted from monitors. People stopped typing mid-sentence. A few chairs quietly rolled an inch. Security had arrived. 2 officers, straight posture, calm faces, walking with purpose. Not aggressive, not rushed, just decisive. Isabella met them at the edge of the floor, spoke to them for a few seconds, then walked them straight to Luis's office. I didn't turn my head. I kept typing, but the voices carried. First came Connor's. What the hell is this supposed to be? You can't just pull me into some meeting like I'm a random employee. I'm family. Security must have asked him to keep his voice down because he got louder. You don't get it. I'm supposed to be in leadership. You can't treat me like this. People exchanged glances. Some pretended to read emails. Others stared openly. A junior analyst mouthed, "Holy crap," at her coworker. Then Luis chimed in, angry, frantic. This is unnecessary. You're overreacting. There's a misunderstanding here. He wasn't shouting like Connor. His voice cracked in the middle, the sound of someone suddenly realizing they don't have the power they thought they had. Security escorted them both to the glass conference room. Connor was pacing inside, running his hands through his hair, talking nonstop. Luis was at the table, gesturing wildly while explaining something none of us could hear clearly. Ethan rolled his chair closer to me. They're getting grilled. Looks like it, I said quietly, not looking away from my screen. HR moved fast. I kept my voice flat. HR is handling it. Ethan watched the glass room for a second, then nodded once. Yeah, that tracks. That's all I've got, I added, and went back to typing. 15 minutes later, the conference door opened. Security stepped in again. Connor walked out first, red-faced, breathing hard. This is insane. You're making a huge mistake. I'll get this reversed in an hour. My uncle will... He didn't finish. Security cut him off and guided him toward the elevators. Luis followed. No shouting now. He looked drained, confused, like someone unplugged the floor beneath him. He glanced across the room. His eyes passed over me briefly, searching for something he didn't find. Then security escorted them to the elevator. The doors closed behind them. Silence settled heavy over the floor. They weren't fired in front of everyone. This was administrative leave. But the message was clear. The company was taking control of the situation. Everyone looked around, then pretended they weren't looking. I didn't celebrate, didn't comment, didn't smirk. This wasn't the end. This was only the removal of the 2 people creating the chaos. The real outcome, the one that mattered, was still on its way. The silence after Luis and Connor were escorted out didn't fade by Monday morning. The weekend was nothing but rumors and unanswered questions, but no official word ever came. If anything, it got heavier. People walked into the office slower than usual, glancing around like they expected to see police tape or a memo pinned to the wall. There was nothing. No statement from leadership. No explanation. Just the empty office where Luis usually sat and the vacant desk Connor barely used. The absence said enough. By 9, the group chats were already active. Did anyone hear what happened? Was it financial? HR? Someone said Connor started yelling? Why was security even here? Nobody had answers. But that didn't stop speculation. Every time someone's phone buzzed, they looked up like they expected the next message to explain everything. It never did. A few coworkers approached my desk throughout the morning. Never directly, always casual. "You doing all right, Hunter?" one analyst asked. "Yeah," I said. "So, do you know anything?" "Not really. HR handles HR." That became my standard line. Clean, neutral. No fuel for rumors. Ethan rolled up to my desk around 11. He looked around first to make sure nobody was within earshot. "You sure you're good?" he asked. "I'm fine. Just checking. You know how some managers get? They look for someone to blame when their guy goes down." "I documented everything," I said. "If anyone tries anything, the truth is written down." He nodded slowly. "All right. Just keep your guard up. People panic when they realize their decisions have consequences." "I know." Antonio stopped by after lunch. He didn't pretend to be subtle. He leaned on my cubicle wall and said, "Called it." "You did," I said. "This place has a pattern," he continued. "A manager builds their house on hype instead of skill. Someone points it out, and HR has to shovel the mess out before it buries the company." I smirked. "Sounds accurate." "You handled it right," he said. "No yelling, no ego, just facts. That's the only thing HR listens to." "Let's hope so." "Oh, they listened," he said. "The real question is what comes next." He walked off before I could respond. By mid-afternoon, HR activity became impossible to ignore. Isabella went back and forth between conference rooms, carrying her laptop. The director of HR arrived, someone we usually only saw during annual reviews, or when someone got promoted. Directors from 2 other departments stopped by and spoke with Isabella behind closed doors. People kept trying to read lips through the glass, guessing at words, whispering theories. Around 3, I saw Isabella wave to me from her office doorway. "Hunter, can you step in for a moment?" I followed her inside. She shut the door behind us. "This won't take long," she said. "We're finalizing the investigation." She opened her notes. "I just need a couple clarifications on your timeline. On the internal review last week, Connor was assigned the prep work?" "Yes," I said. "I sent him the documents, the deadlines, and the expectations. He didn't complete any of it." She wrote a quick note. "And the client deliverable he missed last Wednesday? Assigned to him. He sent the wrong version." Another note. She closed her folder. "Thank you, Hunter. Your documentation held up. HR has everything we need now." "Good." She gave a slow nod. "I also want to acknowledge that you handled this with professionalism. You didn't escalate prematurely. You didn't add unnecessary commentary. You stuck to verifiable facts. That matters. Appreciate it. You're free to go." When I returned to the floor, people looked at me differently. Not paranoid, not scared. More like curious. Like they were trying to understand what role I played in whatever storm hit the department. I didn't give them anything to read. I just sat down and resumed work. Around 4, a message came through from the Director of Operations. "Due to ongoing restructuring within the department, please expect temporary adjustments in reporting structure and workflow distribution. Further updates will follow." Nobody knew what that meant. Restructuring could mean anything from promotions to mass firings. The reaction across the floor was a mix of confusion and dread. Meanwhile, work had to keep moving, and with Luis gone and Connor out of the picture, things started defaulting to me. Not officially, just naturally. Analysts asked which task to prioritize. Project leads asked for clarification on deadlines. Someone from accounting asked about the status of a pending client file. I wasn't trying to run the floor. I just answered questions because someone had to. By 5, the department was functioning again. Not perfectly, but smoother than it had in weeks. Ethan walked over to grab his backpack. Before leaving, he said, "You realize you're the only one keeping this place steady, right?" "I'm just doing my job." "No," he said. "You're doing everyone's job. If anyone deserves to run this department, it's you." I didn't say anything. He didn't expect me to. He nodded once and left. A few minutes later, a notification popped up from HR. "All staff, please be aware that the CEO will be visiting the office tomorrow morning. Attendance mandatory for an all-hands meeting at 9. The reaction was instant. People sat up straighter. A wave of messages flashed across screens. Someone whispered, "The CEO never comes here unless something huge happened." They were right. The office didn't just feel tense. It felt like it was bracing for impact. I packed up my things, walked out without rushing, and drove home as calmly as I did any other day. No adrenaline, no panic, just focus. Tomorrow would decide the rest of this story. That evening, legal and the executive team reviewed the documentation and client impact. By morning, leadership already had a decision and a plan. The CEO arrived a little before 8 on the following Tuesday morning. No entourage, no announcement, no dramatic entrance. He just walked onto the floor with 2 senior directors trailing behind him. The room shifted as soon as people saw him. Posture straightened. Conversations died off. Even keyboards got quieter. He didn't speak at first. He walked slowly through each aisle, observing. Not judging, just absorbing. He paused at a few desks, asked simple questions. How long have you been with us? Or, what projects are you handling? He wasn't fishing for details. He was measuring the department. When he passed my desk, he gave a small nod. No expression attached to it, just acknowledgement. Then he moved on. At 9, the all-hands meeting began. Everyone stood in the open floor area, forming a loose circle around the CEO. Most employees kept their hands folded in front of them. A few looked nervous. The director stood near him, trying to look relaxed, but failing. Good morning, the CEO said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. I appreciate you all gathering on short notice. He rested his hands behind his back. The company has faced some internal challenges recently. Nothing that affects our clients directly, thanks to many of you in this room. His eyes scanned the team. I want to thank you for your stability, professionalism, and dedication during a difficult period. He didn't mention Luis or Connor. He didn't have to. We are committed to maintaining a culture of accountability, he continued. Standards matter. Integrity matters. And when those values slip, we correct course quickly. A few employees nodded subtly. No one dared look around, but everyone was thinking the same thing. He ended the meeting with a simple line. More updates will follow. Thank you for your time. The whole thing lasted 5 minutes. Short, sharp, and unmistakably authoritative. When the crowd broke apart, Isabella approached me. Hunter, she said quietly, the CEO would like to see you. I followed her to a conference room near the executive wing. Inside, the CEO sat at the table with my documentation packet open in front of him. He'd read everything. I could tell by the sticky notes marking different sections. Hunter, he said, motioning for me to sit. Thank you for coming. I sat across from him. He tapped the folder lightly. I've reviewed your timeline. Your clarity and straightforwardness prevented a much larger issue from escalating. Glad it was helpful, I said. It was more than helpful, he replied. Most employees either let situations like this fester or report them in a chaotic way. You did neither. You handled it cleanly. He leaned back. You didn't insert emotion. You didn't speculate. You didn't blame. You simply wrote down what happened, when it happened. That was the goal, I said. The board and I appreciate that, he said. Your work is respected, not just in this department, but at the executive level. I nodded. Thank you. He closed the folder. To update you formally, Luis has been terminated effective immediately. His decisions created risk, and he misled leadership. Connor's access has been revoked. He will not return to the company in any capacity. No surprise. No gloating feeling either. Just confirmation. The CEO continued. This department needs stability. It needs competence. It needs someone who can lead without theatrics. He paused briefly. I'm offering you the position of department lead. Full authority over operations. Effective today. No build-up. No conditions. Just the job. I nodded once. I accept. Good, he said. HR will handle the paperwork. We'll announce it shortly. The meeting ended there. No long speech, no handshake photo, just a clear decision made by someone who values results. When we returned to the floor, the directors gathered the team again. The CEO stepped forward. I'd like to formally introduce your new department lead, he said. Someone who demonstrated integrity and reliability during recent events. Please congratulate Hunter Reed. Heads turned. A few people smiled, real smiles, not corporate ones. A couple analysts clapped lightly. Someone from project coordination let out a relieved exhale. Ethan walked up and tapped my shoulder. About time, he said. Told you. Thanks, I replied. Coworkers came by one at a time. Nods, quick handshakes, quiet congratulations. Not flashy, not overblown. Just respect. The rest of the day moved fast. HR brought the official documents. Leadership forwarded transition emails. Tasks shifted. Processes realigned. People came to me naturally with questions, and the department started settling into a normal rhythm again. Its first real stability in weeks. By the end of the day, it didn't feel like I'd stepped into a new role. It felt like I'd finally been placed where I should have been all along. That weekend, I went to my mom's house for dinner. Same routine as always. She cooked too much. Mia complained about her job. The dog barked at anyone who touched the fridge. Mom served plates before saying, "So, how's work? Last week sounded stressful." I nodded. It was. Things settled. Mia squinted at me. Define settled. I took a sip of water. Luis is gone. Connor's gone. CEO visited. HR cleaned everything up. She blinked. You're serious? Yeah. Mom tilted her head. And you? Are you all right? Did they finally realize how much they rely on you? I nodded once. They promoted me. Department lead. Mia dropped her fork. Took them long enough. Mom smiled softly. I'm proud of you, but not surprised. You've always done things the right way. We ate while they asked questions. Not nosy, just curious. I kept answers brief. What changed, what improved, what I was focusing on next. No bragging, no dramatic retelling, just facts. After dinner, Mom said, I always told you not to let people treat you like you're disposable. This time, I didn't deflect it. I know, I said. You were right. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not excitement, not triumph. Control. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.